I'll open up the meeting. Welcome everybody to the Village of Reddick Village Board meeting for December 14, 2020. As is our custom, we're in the remote virtual meeting modes for the past several months in accord with Governor's Executive Orders 202.1 and continuing up to 202.72 and even a little further. So we're not all in the same room, and normally we'd rise and open the meeting with a pledge to the flag, but our custom now is to take a moment of quiet and introspection to just think about those who have passed away with COVID disease, and then those on our front line locally and across the country that are working to help everybody, the essential workers and our frontline workers. So let's have a moment of silence for that to open up our meeting. Okay, thank you, everybody. Yeah, and like we said, it's December 14th. Believe it or not, it's the last meeting of the year 2020, the last formal board meeting. I don't know how you would describe this year. We could never have predicted last December 31st and January 1st what we'd be going through, but it's ending, at least as part of it, and the vaccine is out on the streets in parts of the state already, so that's great. So we have reasons to be optimistic, but it's going to be a while. We still have to keep our guards up and so forth, and therefore we're still in remote meetings. What I would do is, looking over the list here, since we are recording with Panda directly, any votes we take, I'll do a roll call, even if it's an insignificant type matter, such as approval of minutes. And then what we'll do is, I do show 4 board members on at the moment. We're waiting for Charles Lang, but let me just take a quick attendance so the clerk can confirm who's here. I show, of course, myself. Brent Kowalczyk, are you out there?
Yes, sir.
And then I show Jennifer Norris.
Yes.
And I show Will Noonan. Will, are you there?
Yes.
Okay. And I don't see in my screens that Charles Lang is there, but Charlie, are you? Oh, I do see him now. Okay. Charlie Lang, could you attest that you're here?
I am here.
Okay,
Yes.
Good. Thanks. Again, welcome. We had 2 meetings in the month of November, a regular board meeting and a workshop. The regular board meeting was November 9, and the workshop was November 19th. We've circulated the minutes for review. I've included myself. I would ask that we concur, and I'll put a motion out that we accept the minutes as submitted, or if anybody has any additions, alterations, or corrections, please let me know right now. Move that we accept them. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And then as far as discussion, anybody pick up anything they needed to change or whatever? What we mentioned, since we have 5 board members, but one is, this is the first meeting, he was not present in any official capacity at the November meeting, so will not vote on this, but to accept the minutes, I'll vote yes. Ed Blondell, Mr. Kowalczyk,
Yes.
Ms. Norris,
Yes.
and Mr. Lang.
Yes.
Okay, good, thank you. Why don't we do one more in the meeting welcome. We have our 5th board member is present. Like I said, he did attend the workshop, which is a little more casual. Will Noonan is board member number 5. He even has a little chore to work on tonight. He'll do some reporting on the planning and zoning reports and so forth. So I asked him to rehearse that and be on his best presentation skills. So good. But welcome, Will, and thanks for signing up to help. And we'll talk more in the meeting about elections and the cycle and different things that are part of what he's helping us out with here. And like I said, we are recording. What I thought we'd do is, before we get into our department and committee reports, we have some guests on. If you're looking at the participants, you'll see Jay Miller, Jody, that's Jody Miller. She's the chair of the Dutchess County Human Rights Commission. And we have, I think I saw Daley Williams. The meeting was set up by Doris Diaz-Kelly, but I don't think Doris could make it tonight. I'll give a little intro and we can get into it. They have a PowerPoint that they'll share with us You all recall we've been working more than ever with Dutchess Human Rights Commission on two projects. One was the mural and the petitioner activist group. They were helping facilitate conversations that we jumped into. And then it almost concurrently was with the police redesign and reform efforts with the county collaborative and so forth. They acted as a conduit or a focal point for the community discussions, community forums. The September 26th one that we held in our northern Dutchess area was hosted by them. And we made great notes, and we thank them for helping us with that too. But I think from what I could see of their presentation, I invited them to go first so they could get in and get out if they wanted to. And then they're trying to familiarize us and our viewers with what they do and what they offer. And in these times in particular, making sure that people know they're out there and what they can do for folks. And from what I can see, it ranges from in service, in employment situations where if you have, not so much in our village, but any employer, if you have issues with employment discrimination, they can handle it. If it's outside on the streets discrimination, but I think I'll let them talk and give the overview, and we'll move on. They're welcome to stay on too. And like I said, we did suggest to Jody before the meeting formally opened up, we did want them to get their own time on Panda that would show separately from our show, I'll call it. Panda might be able to clip if the quality is good and the technology works properly. It's an offer to them. They could talk to Panda about clipping it and doing it more routinely on different timelines separate from the Village of Red Hook showtime. With that, Jody, if you're out there, and Bailey, do you want to click your share buttons and get into it?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So I'm Jody Miller. I'm, as the Mayor said, I'm the chair of the commission, the executive director of the Commission on Human Rights in Dutchess County, and I'm joined by my colleague, Bailey Williams. So the purpose of our presentation today, we're in a year-long process of meeting with all town, village, and city boards throughout the county to familiarize them with what we do and every municipality. We're a county-wide commission, so we really want the entire county to know that we're here and a little bit about what we do. And you know, in this year was really extraordinary in many ways, not just, of course, with COVID, but of course with all of the racial bias, systemic racism protests that have occurred all over the country. We've certainly seen them in Dutchess County as well, for the most part peaceful protests. But we feel like this was such an important moment to make sure that we got out and we were able to introduce the commission to the residents of Dutchess County, so that we can develop a closer collaboration in sharing information with local municipalities, inform municipalities of the work and the activities of the commission, explain what we do and what we don't do as a commission, as well as how we collect information and data, and discuss some of the current issues that we're seeing in the county and how we can assist those. Now I know Bailey's going to share.
I'm just having a little bit of technical difficulty, but I'll get it up as soon as I can.
Okay, great. So just to give a little bit of history, the commission was originally established back in 1984 and had about a 23-year run. Then it was on hiatus for a few years, and it was reestablished by the county executive and the Dutchess County Legislature in 2016. The commission was established with one employee, that's me, and then we have 14 volunteer community leader positions. So we're really very fortunate in that we have volunteer community leaders who represent the entire county, pretty much from every geographic area of the county. Our commission members are either appointed by the county executive or by the chair of the legislature. They serve 3-year terms. And we really strive to have that the commission members represent the diversity of our community, both culturally, religious, age, ability, geographic. So it's pretty wide where our commission members come from, pretty much everywhere in the county. Our mission is defending human rights, bridging differences, and embracing diversity. And we developed that mission early on when the commission was reestablished because we really wanted to have something very succinct and clear. And as one of our members said, something that you can really easily remember before you have your coffee in the morning. You just say this. Missions can sometimes be really long and wieldy. So we wanted something really succinct that described what we do. So what is the role of the commission? So we have our mission, and we also have a very specific purpose. And this purpose is laid out in the resolution that reestablished the commission, where we're really designed to foster mutual respect and understanding among all groups in the county, educate the county's communities on issues and studies of human rights, address discriminatory practices as well as tension and conflict and help to resolve them, organize and participate in community activities and events to build goodwill and alliances to foster mutual respect and understanding among groups, to develop programs that enhance and embrace diversity and inclusion. We also act as a bridge to other resources, including but not limited to the New York State Division of Human Rights. And I think, Mayor, you were referring to sometimes people will contact us. They may have an employment issue or a housing issue, and that may be something that the New York State Division of Human Rights can assist them with, depending on what it is that they're looking for and what the issue is. We do not do any investigations. We're not empowered to investigate, and that's also laid out in a local law as part of our establishment. So Bailey's going to talk now about, what we've been seeing, current issues in the county, some of the other activities and programs that we've conducted since we were reestablished. And I'm going to turn it over to Bailey now.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us. I'm Bailey Williams. I'm on the commission, and I'm also a resident of the Village of Red Hook. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about why we do what we do and why it is needed here. So why in Dutchess County do we need a Human Rights Commission? Do we need these various activities and programs that we'll talk to you about? So this is a photo that was taken in our county in 2019, and it displays a Nazi flag in a private residence window. This was something that was brought to our attention by some community members. And this is in 2019. This is right here in our county. Hate exists here, bias exists here. This happens here. In general, we've seen over the past few years an uptick in incidents of hate speech and bias actions. A couple examples in addition to this incident here. We've also seen swastikas spray painted on cars, white supremacist flyers circulating in villages and on college campuses, destruction of property that displayed the LGBTQ flag, racial harassment of a delivery worker, xenophobia against many in the immigrant communities. And during COVID-19 in particular, we've seen an increase in anti-Semitism and racist and biased treatment of Asian Americans. And this is all local. This is all within our community. So not even referring to statewide or national events. So what can be done? So when we think about how to respond to these types of actions and incidents, we've seen some think that the right approach might be, well, let's ignore it. This was a one-time thing. This was an isolated incident. We're not going to say anything. I don't want to fuel the fire. But what we found is that doing nothing actually has the opposite effect than what you might anticipate with that approach. There's a ripple effect that occurs when hate happens, when a biased incident happens. If it's against one individual, it's not just that one individual who is affected. It actually affects anyone who shares that same identity, and it can affect that community to which the individual belongs. When people are afraid, they're less likely to participate in community life and civic life. So the approach that we would like to encourage is more of, if you think about that ripple effect, where the fear kind of spreads across of a community, and where likewise the hate or the bias that exists also is in motion. The ripple has started even from one incident. That if you don't disrupt that ripple, if you don't redirect it, it's going to continue. So silence just allows that negative pattern to continue versus starting a positive ripple, right? Make that effect be encouraging and welcoming of everyone. So we've been speaking out about hate and its impact, and we're really asking people to report incidents to us so we can have a full picture of what's happening in the county. And we've been consulting with local communities about ways to respond. So 2 suggested responses include taking collective action. So creating a visible collective community response that clearly sends a message that hate isn't welcome here. So without that, with silence, it signals apathy and hate grows. You might think, oh, I'm not responding to not give it attention, but that silence can be misinterpreted as permission. And the other is engaging elected officials to speak out. So when elected officials name the problem specifically and speak out against hate, that sends a really clear message about what is acceptable in a community and what is not. It starts that positive ripple effect, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about what do you do if you aren't aware that there's a specific problem. Maybe you think everything's fine and you don't know. Well, there's 2 explanations for that. One is that with these issues, we tend to see a lot of underreporting. So there very well may be a problem that you're not aware of yet. And the other is that best practices are best practices. A good practice is a good practice. Creating community that is welcoming, a place that is clearly positive, that's always going to be a good idea, right? So doing nothing is not enough. A united community against hate makes a difference, and we want to be a resource for you. You can contact us to report hate speech, incidents, or crimes, or also just discuss ways to respond, whether or not that may or may not be something that's on your radar as of yet. So some ways that we take action and put our mission to work. One is 100 cups of coffee. This is something that has kind of been on pause for obvious reasons during COVID-19, at least in its initial inception. So it's the Commission's Transformative Dialogue pilot project, and it's mainly been in the city of Poughkeepsie. We've had the first one in Fishkill outside of Poughkeepsie. In 2018 to 2019, we facilitated 15 different 100 cups of coffee, and the primary goal of this event is to bring people together to have a cup of coffee or tea, if you prefer, and really work on improving community relations by providing spaces for people to come together and talk about the issues that are important to them. So it might be themed to a specific topic, or it might be more open, but it's really about talking with people who you otherwise might not get an opportunity to gain that common ground, that sense of community, and to learn about issues that you might not be as aware of, and then come up with ideas for what to do next.
And I just want to say one thing about that. The other thing that we know about the Transformative Dialogue project is that we also look at what happens afterward. How do things change interactionally between people? What changes for them on the personal level, the interpersonal level, the community or civic engagement level, and lastly on the policy or institutional level. So the talking has impact, and that's one of the things that we look at afterwards.
Thank you. That's very important to remember. Another event that we've held are listening sessions. We've held these sometimes in conjunction with government entities. For example, we held listening sessions with the Village of Tivoli, but we've also just held them as an all call where we might go to different communities and just invite people to come and talk to us about whatever they have on their mind. We are there just to listen and hear what the issues are that people bring to the table. And discuss them, and then possibly out of those different solutions may or may not come up. Sometimes community individual driven. Sometimes the people in these sessions are able to hear each other and connect, and sometimes it might be us assisting with what the next step could be. We've held transformative dialogue trainings. This is something we did in 2017, something that we plan to do again. So it was a free 2-day training on how to facilitate transformative dialogues. Participants learned how to facilitate meetings, how to better understand their own and others' responses to conflict, how to listen to each other, and how to increase their ability to support positive and connected interactions among those with different perspectives. Some additional events that we've taken part with are celebrating International Human Rights Day, providing educational outreach, acting as an information resource or conduit for county government and municipalities, as well as the New York State Division of Human Rights. We've been hosting inter-county forums that we'll talk a little bit more about in a moment with the Human Rights Commissions of Orange and Ulster counties. Participating in the county's Police Reform and Modernization Collaborative, their work groups and associated listening sessions. moderating discussions between elected officials and community members. As Mayor Blundell had mentioned, we took part in some conversations with the Village of Red Hook and some concerned community members regarding murals in town. Tracking and responding to bias and hate, so supporting communities as they stand together in support of diversity and inclusion and against hate. We've had meetings with Duchess Unidos, the county executive, Sheriff Anderson, and elected officials regarding confusion and misinformation in the local communities about the impact of federal policy changes on local policy and procedure, and facilitated conversation with parents and school administrators regarding students being bullied on the basis of religion and national origin. An additional thing, as Jody mentioned, we're not an investigative body, but we can refer you to the New York State Division of Human Rights for complaints regarding alleged discrimination. We can help provide resources and information and support to those who would like to make complaints and connect you to the right people. So now I'm going to turn it back over to Jody, and she's going to talk a little bit about how our activities have looked somewhat similar and also somewhat different in the times of COVID-19.
So essentially, during COVID, everything's been virtual. that's the short answer. But before COVID, before we knew about COVID, in January, February, and early March, we were able to get out and hold some events and participate in the community together. And so you see some pictures here of some of the things that we were involved in. Early on, in January, there was an interfaith prayer vigil. You see a picture here of the United Nations Association Mid-Hudson Valley students. It was held at Oakwood Friends School, but there are other students from other schools there. The MLK Day of Service at Bard College. There's also another picture here of me speaking at the Jewish Federation of Dutchess County about the rise in anti-Semitism in Dutchess County. And lastly, collaborating with the Ulster County and Orange County Human Rights to discuss. We were planning to have a conference this year, and that turned into our speaker series. And then the last event was one held by Dr. Seema Rizvi every year called All for One, One for All, that she holds in Fishkill, really to bring people together of different faiths. So that was pre-COVID, and since COVID, we've continued with our virtual events. Let's see, what's next? So I think we've been as busy, if not busier, with virtual meetings. So we launched our Town Village project, and you can see here a slide of us at the first meeting with the Stamford Town Board back in June. And again, this project we had been planning for a while, and so we were really glad to get this launched, and we'll continue meeting with village, town, and city boards until we reach pretty much everyone. These are some slides of our Police Reform and Modernization Collaborative community forums. We held 6 community forums around the county in English. We wanted to do something in by geographically, so that people would have the opportunity to say what they needed to say, or give. And the question we asked them essentially was, what ideas do you have about police reform? Specific ideas. And so people talked for 3 minutes each about their ideas about police reform. And so many of those ideas, or the top ideas, were included in the report that was just released today in the plan. So there's some examples of that. Here's some examples of our speaker series, which launched in October with the Ulster County Human Rights and Orange County Human Rights Commissions. The speaker series is called Doing More Than Nothing About Hate. We're all in this together. Again, that theme of doing something, not nothing, because hate grows when there's silence. And so our first speaker was the executive director of the New York City Office for the Prevention of Hate Crimes, Deborah Lauder, who talked about a 3-pronged approach that they use: education, law enforcement, and community collaboration our second presentation talking about the profiting from hate and how hate affects undocumented immigrants. And tomorrow is our third in the series, which is Coming Together Against Hatred, a Black, a Latinx, and a Jewish perspective. Discussion about racism and hatred, overcoming barriers, and how to collectively work together in some communities that can sometimes work together, definitely work together really well, but also sometimes have historical barriers. So we'll have 3 people talking about that tomorrow. The Town and Village project continues. I think this is our 7th or 8th presentation, and our entire commission is involved in this project, which is really great. And just a few things about the goals that we had for this project included, having a stronger presence in local communities, particularly with elected leaders, acting as a resource, and providing a liaison connection to the board. So that's one thing that we are asking each board that we present to is to officially appoint a liaison. And I think Doris may have sent you, Mayor, the liaison description. If not, we'll get that to you to consider. So we just really are seeking to have that stronger presence, a stronger connection, to be a resource. That's one of our primary roles, and to affect positive change between people in the county. We are witnessing, so many ways that hate and bias in different ways can weaken the fabric of community and have a ripple effect, as Bailey was discussing. We think that through our efforts, we can bring people together, and that doesn't mean you're always going to agree, but for safety, for a stronger community, and a respectful community, we believe that there are lots of ways to bring people together to do that. And we hope that if there are any issues that you think that we can help with, that you would bring them to our attention. And our services are confidential. We've talked about, showed you the public face of the things that we do, but when people call us, those are confidential calls. So I think that's it. We have annual reports that are on the website, on the county website. You can find us under Human Rights. Our email is dchumanrights@dutchessny.gov. Our phone number is 486-2836. And we welcome your comments, questions.
Hey, thanks. Maybe I'll jump in quickly. Thanks for doing that. And this board and this administration, we want Red Oak to be a welcoming community. And in that regard, and one thing that's come up in the 6 months we've been working with you in different forums, and it goes even to police reform, is when it comes to reporting an incident, an issue, what is the communication link? You mentioned confidentiality, and we see that, like I said, a little bit of segue into the police reporting. Like, it seems like the public is reluctant to report to certain authority figures. I would say they're probably more willing to go talk to your organization. But then how do we know? It's sort of a dilemma I'm noticing. Like, how do we know? How do we know of a specific incident? And we wouldn't necessarily need to know names, people, some version of confidentiality, but at least we would be more aware that something's happening. Or, like you had that example of a Nazi flag hanging in somebody's window. I want to be clear that you mentioned the word community. That's not Red Hook to my knowledge, and I think if any of us saw that, we would know and do something. But a lot of the things are not necessarily viewed in the public forum as somebody having an incident with 3 or 4 people or one person somewhere privately or independently happening. How do we best get made aware of that?
Yeah, and you're right. People do have concerns about coming forward, right? They, as you mentioned, and so sometimes they'll bring some of those concerns to us, and a lot of times they won't say anything, or they'll talk to their friends, right? Mm-hmm. So we report everything, all of our statistics in aggregate, and that is in our annual report in terms of the number of contacts that we've had. And what I would just say is, if we, and that's one of the reasons to establish a stronger connection with local municipalities, is so that we can have, a stronger relationship in terms of bringing generally things to the attention, or you'll bring things to our attention. That's what we're hoping for. The other thing I would just say is, when it comes to reporting, and if that's what you're asking about, how do you get people to come forward? I think that, there has to be a process that's really clear, really very transparent, and is also, transparent about what the limits to confidentiality are, what you can keep confidential, what you won't keep confidential. Sometimes there are legal reasons, whatever. So I think that the clearer that you can make that, and the more transparent you can make that, and outlining what any processes would entail and who would be involved in those processes, helps people, helps build trust. So we want to strengthen our relationship with local elected officials and municipalities to have a stronger connection in terms of what's happening in all of these communities, and also helping how people can feel more comfortable if they're willing to come forward, because that's hard.
That was my question. I don't know if any board members had anything before we let them go on and we jump into our more mundane, boring part of our meeting. But anybody else have a question?
I have a question. How do you balance the non-investigative and non-enforcement aspect of the organization with gathering information about hate crimes, or not hate crimes, sorry, about racial hate situations?
Well, we're really clear about our role, and whenever somebody's calling us to tell us about something that's happened, really our first approach is supporting them and finding out what is it that has happened, what is it that they're looking for, what is it that they want to do. Sometimes people will call and they just want to tell somebody. They don't want to go to the police. They may not want to tell anybody officially, but just to tell us feels official enough, and that it'll be confidential. And it helps them kind of figure out, okay, now I did that, what am I going to do next? Sometimes it's brainstorming with the person. What is it that you want to see happen? And so we've come up with all kinds of ways that people aren't always, it may not rise to the level of a crime. So what's the in-between? What is available to someone if they have been harmed by somebody's speech? I just had somebody, right after Thanksgiving, say somebody said in a business said something to them that was very, discriminatory. I won't repeat it here, but it really threw them, and they weren't really sure what to do, and they reported it to management, and then they weren't really sure that worked, and so then they called us. And so we came up with we worked with the person to come up with a plan about what was the next step. And if that didn't work, let's call us back, we'll figure out something else. So it's all of this to say, it really depends on what the individual wants to see happen and where they are, and that varies. So we're very clear with people that we don't have the power to investigate. We're not empowered to do that. So let's talk about, what would you like to see happen? Is that something that you're looking for? And if so, let's talk about where you might be able to get that. And maybe it's not that, it's something else entirely.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else from the board? Since I know we have some public guests later in the meeting, we have public comment, but anybody out in the attending audience, not an elected person, while we have Chief Executive of HR and HRC and Bailey on. Anybody else have a question that we could have them answer for you? Okay. Thank you, Jody. Thank you, Bailey, and RSDS Kelly for setting it up wherever she is. And I made some notes, and you've been helpful on multiple levels with us already, and keep up the good work. And we'll be in touch, I think, in a not too distant future on the next steps we're doing with police modernization and reform. So.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. Have a happy holiday.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, you too.
All right. We can move into the monthly business part of our meeting and then other components as well. So we did the minutes. Next, we would move toward how are we doing financially, and Mr. Toll is online. In your package, there's overview, top sheet, and is supporting inside sheets. I had the good fortune of introducing Will Noonan yesterday to the voucher review process. Time on that, and we got Ray can give us the details. You ready to go, Ray?
Certainly, yeah. As of the end of November, the account balances were as follows. In the general fund, $802,170.33. The water fund, $107,833.47. Trust and agency, $20,655.19. Petty cash just remaining the same at around $57.75. Village Green, $4,149.92. Hard Scrabble, $2,276.85. Health insurance, $4,343.67. The sewer fund, $23,290.25. And there is nothing in the capital fund. In terms of the reserve checking balances, these haven't changed much from last month. Fire department, $5,029.08. Police, $14,572.83. USDA, $108,925.03. Highway, $20,769.24. The snow reserve, $3,278.59. The tower reserve, $17,706.52. Unemployment, $4,542.88. Court reserve, $3,297.68. And the office reserve, $972.26. In terms of the total monthly expenses for the month of November, the general fund, $208,795.65. The water fund, $92,332.15. Trust and agency, $988.84. And there was nothing in terms of the sewer fund. I think that in terms of those monthly expenses, in terms of the general fund, there were 3 pay periods in the month of November, and there was also a payment of the Village Hall bond of $62,550. So those were the main expenses in terms of the general fund. And in terms of the water fund, there was a payment to the USD Phase 1 of $33,700. So that's why those numbers are somewhat higher than normal. And that is the conclusion of the treasurer's report as submitted by myself, Ray Toll, the treasurer.
Thank you, Ray. Yeah, I'm glad at the end he brought that up because when you look at those monthly disbursements, it is a bigger number than we tend to see. So Ray said the employees like those months. You might remember, I'm retired. I don't have to deal with them, but those 3 paycheck months somehow, when the paydays hit just certain ways. I think so it bumps it a little bit, and I think there were actually a couple of health insurance payments in there, which is a big number too. But yeah, thanks for picking up on that, Ray, that it's a little higher than the normal pattern, and it's all supported and legit.
I did have a question for you, Ray. I know that the Village Green received the donation, and I don't see that reflected in the balance of the Village Green account balance. Would that be in next month's balance?
Yes, that would be, because that came in after the 1st of December, so it would be in there now.
Okay, I just looked at
Those numbers were as of November the 30th.
Right, I think the donation came in on the 2nd of December.
Correct, so it's not reflected in that number.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Yeah, we should. Okay. That being said, it's all been circulated. One thing I picked up on was we were showing some low revenue in the police world for SRO, but we looked at that this week, and it'll make some more sense in that we know schools didn't open immediately, and then we've got our first month of payments in for, I think it was October. November's being billed now, so whatever the implications are, the good side is if we're not billing for the work, it means we're not paying the employees to be there working, so it's not a direct hit to our budget. There is some negativity to it. So, but I worked with Lara and Patrick today on that, and Ray, and that if you look at that one line, and like I said, what I like the board to always do is essentially November 30th is 50% of our fiscal year. So it's really a good test to go through that attached printout sheet to see who's holding at 50%. And looking at it, it looks pretty good to me overall. Sales tax, of course, and certain things we're going to be wondering about further into the year. But on the expense side, even some of our bigger payroll budget lines are in the year, so that's good. The managers are doing a great job with that. So I would move that we accept Treasurer Toll's report. Is there a second?
Second.
Again, roll call. Blundell, yes. Walczak?
Yes.
Norris?
Yes.
Noonan?
Yes.
Lang? Good?
Yes.
Lang, you there? Okay. All right. Let me go next. Police report. For the month of November 2020, incidents were 374. Breakout is 248 in the village, 120 in the town of Red Hook, 6 in the village of Tivoli. There were 83 traffic tickets issued. Breakout is 45 in the village, 3 parking tickets, and 35 in the town of Red Hook. Arrests were 5, 3 were in the village, and 2 were in the town. And once again, the detailed sheets are attached. Later on in the regular business, we have Patrick listening in, and we'll be talking about things that are on the agenda there. Bill Noonan, William Noonan, I think anybody ever called you Bill, but William.
Call me anything.
In your packet, you want to look over the report from the building department. One is a recap of actions and permits. We don't need to know every action if you want to give the total dollar generated for that one report. And the other one you could.
Okay.
We don't need all the street addresses in the other one. But,
okay. I don't see total. Maybe I don't have that.
On the back page, maybe.
Okay.
I can help you out. I bet
Okay.
we two-sided. It's the nemesis of the two-sided paper-saving print that probably somebody didn't at home print the back page. For the month of November, the various inspections and permits generated a total of $4,330. CO searches, which sort of sync with what we know is active in the real estate right now, are in there. Some big number on fire inspections. A commercial property. The bank was doing a major renovation project, so there's some pretty big numbers from those lines. Total of $4,330, which is one of the higher months in a long time. Will, if you wanted the other one, you could summarize for us.
Okay. Sure. The zoning and planning board, building permits issued were 3. Certificates of occupancy issued 2. Certificate of compliance 2. Municipal searches 5. Orders to remedy, there were none. Stop work orders 0. Court appearances 0. Fire inspections 10. Complaints 2. The planning board actions November 12th, negative DEC, I'm not sure what that means.
Declaration.
Okay, declaration and subdivision approval granted to property located on 19 Linden Avenue, listed under tax parcel ID number 6272-06-3848861. And the zoning board of appeals, there were no meetings in the month of November.
Okay, good. Thank you. Let's see. Why don't we jump? We'll let Brent go last. This is our custom. Trustee Norris, are you ready with materials management and whatever else you have there?
all the events that don't happen because of COVID, yeah. Let's see. Otherwise, no, we have some stuff going on for events. It started on Black Friday and it happens every Friday at 6 and 12 noon on Sundays. Red Hook Responds is presenting community bell ringing, where you just go outside with a bell and ring for 5 minutes. Apparently it's really cool. I always look and it's like 6:10 and it's like, I missed it. But so that's going on until midnight on New Year's Eve. Just a nice little community thing to, our options are pretty limited right now. Historic Red Hook is doing a time capsule ornament. They have free fillable ornaments from locations throughout the village. And then you write like a nice little thing about 2020, because even though 2020 was weird, there were some silver linings in there. So put a happy thought about 2020 in the ornament, decorate it, fill it with whatever you'd like, and then hang it on the tree outside of the Elmendorf. And then they're going to archive the collection. And in 200 years, they'll open it up and people will see what we did. All right. And then the excitement of materials management. For the month of November, we sold $2,712 in garbage tags and paid out $960.31. We had 8 tons of garbage and 3.65 tons of recycling, which is 0.81 tons of cardboard, 1.62 tons of newspaper, and 1.22 tons of commingled. As we mentioned last month, we're not going to be able to do the electronic recycling that we usually do in January, but Ulster County Resource will take, like, I know, televisions and other electronics, I believe free of charge. So there are options to safely get rid of your waste. Unfortunately, it won't be through us this year. And that's all I have.
Thanks, Jen. A couple of quick things to add.
Yep.
I like your suggestion on Ulster County Resource Recovery, because this holiday season, one reason we always did e-waste in January was people get the new load of electronics in the holiday season and they're looking to get rid of the last generation. The tonnage we would collect was unbelievably high. And we worked, as you all know, closely with BARD. We always sequenced it to be on the Martin Luther King weekend of service set of days with them. So they gave us intern volunteer types that didn't mind working in 10 degrees below zero and snowed, different things, different days. But anyway, maybe in our newsletter, we could make a note, me, Jen, and Lara. Maybe we'll do a reminder people could take a load over to Ulster Resource Recovery when they're going over to do food shopping or something. We get some details, keep the e-waste stream a little cleaner. Jen misspoke a little bit. She was starting to say 6 tons of recycling there, but she corrected it. I know we're good, but we're not. We still have great recycling rates. One interesting thing, we are getting calls from newly arriving residents, and I'm pitching our materials management, and it seems like they're of the generation and the outlook to use our systems versus the big private guys in the robot trucks and so forth. So we'll get a little bit more into it later in the meeting, but they seem very much inclined to use our system, which is great. We're holding our own. We're just about at budget with the tag sales we're averaging per month. I'd like to see that come back a little better. And we'll talk about some more ideas on that later in the meeting. Another thing, I did get contacted by Reddick Fire Company, and we're going to help out a little bit with this Saturday, the 19th, from 10 till noon. They have Dave's Tree, who you might remember for our Winterfest prior years, built this incredible tow-behind sled designed to work in the holiday season with when we would do Winterfest. Santa Claus would arrive at our corner from the sled, and he's got an incredible sound system built into it. And he had bought a bunch of candy canes, and he was, with COVID, very depressed. He had nowhere to put his sled and take the candy cane. So the fire company's got an idea, and we're going to help out. They're going to take a Tivoli truck, fire truck, a Reddick truck, and a Milan truck. And I'm going to get a white 1966 Cadillac with red interior, and we're gonna like follow them around. Hopefully, in the neighborhoods, the more densely packed. We can't hit every town and every village street, I don't think, but so we're finalizing it. But they have something up on their Facebook page now. We're trying to figure out how we can get the word out to track Santa. It's not going to be congregation, not gathering. It's going to be COVID safe. It's more like when we march in a parade and we toss candy to the young kids. It's something like that where we'll hopefully, if the people know about it and hear the noise of the firemen ringing their sirens, the kids will come out on the front lawn and get some candy canes. And Mr. and Mrs. Claus will also be in the sled. So we'll be working that. So somehow we have to get the word out a little more, some shape or form. But the fire company said they get a fair amount of hits on their Facebook page, so we'll work with that a little bit. So if you can, if you hear sirens, I think we'll try to make them a little more toned down. In summertime, they were driving around, and I think they were scaring the folks sometimes. But this will be, we'll make some noise, but not too much. So hopefully the weather's okay, and we'll do that.
I'd just like to bring up something too, Ed. The village looks really nice right now, decorated out, and some people may notice some tractors and vintage cars and trucks around the village and all decorated with lights. And I just like to shout out to Kim McGrath for all of her efforts in decorating those and organizing this year's decorations throughout the village, making it look very festive and
yeah, good point.
for all visitors. So
yeah, thanks for bringing that up. What it is, it's a little more than that. It's we attend the EDC, that's the Economic Development Committee meetings. I do them once a week now. With COVID, we're trying to find ways to keep the street alive. And we got the idea working with the landlords, the chamber, the EDC, how to do it. And you might recall we worked with Battenfeld and we got that tree with our highway guys and Dave's tree installed at the Yum Yum Corner, we'll call it. And this offshot from it, Todd Barrett moved his Crazy Bird sculpture. I don't know if you know, it's over now by Ben's Pizza, and it's so funny. He's got it decorated with holiday lights. It's awesome looking thing, and he's putting more trees around. So he really bought into it. The merchants are pushing the chamber, but the EDC got the idea was to get vintage, and it's kind of an inside joke. I was like, I don't want junk cars, like we don't want, because during the day they don't look too cool with the holiday lights not lit. It just looks like a old tractor or an old whatever. But they did place them around, and the idea is to run them probably for 30 days, into mid-January, just to keep some lights and some things fun so people can walk around and drive through and see a fun time. But yeah, it's a real composite effort, and it's been really good. We use some of our money to buy the lights, meaning we have celebrations budget with no celebrations this year, so you'll see some vouchers in the pack on that. And our highway guys, like I said, did some work. So it's Dave's tree has been helpful too. So it's fun, and you just got to make sure everybody goes out and keeps shopping and shops local here, because our local street needs the help. Well, thanks. And celebrations are always kind of fun to talk about anyway, right? As is garbage, materials management.
They're equal, really.
We'll talk more about things that are related in the next segment of the meeting. But thank you, Jen. Mr. Lang, are you out and about with a water report somewhere?
I am out and about. Well, no, obviously I'm not out and about, chained to my home. But yes, I have the monthly water report. So for the month of November, the water treatment facility treated 9,221,300 total gallons, which is an average of 307,400 gallons a day. I've got the little chart here, not too helpful for you guys, but Ed, as you pointed out, we seem to be sort of stabilizing at around, just over 300,000 gallons a day. Yeah. Whereas for the first half of the year, or a good part of it, we were more like, 240, 235. So this seems to be the new normal. I mean, there's a bit of a delay because it doesn't shoot up when everybody's sent home in March. It sort of shoots up in May, and then peaks in June. But that's the way of things. It's a different world out there. I know my daughter's home using a lot of water. You know, there's a lot of showering going on. And so we also had, as we do regularly, 3 bacteriological samples were collected and sent out to the Smith labs in Hyde Park. And they all came back absent of coliform and E. coli, so the water is looking good. And that's in large part due to the application of sodium hypochlorite. And so in the month of November, the treatment plant used 85 gallons of sodium hypochlorite, which was an average daily use of 2.83 gallons a day. So that's the basic water report. I don't know if there's, I haven't heard of any, major issues or leaks or issues with the system over the past month, but
Yeah,
you've got your finger on the
we're doing well there. We're going to do another water read here tomorrow, I believe, for the December billing quarter. We'll see. It looks like Charlie said, we're pumping more, but we are also selling more, which is good. We're still trying to figure out total pumped to total sold. The expert we hired turned in his final report the other day, and there's a couple things we need to check still, the things he's pointed up, but they don't seem to be geyser like leaks or anything, but we'll be working on that. And we're monitoring a few accounts weekly now, just because we're trying to avoid big surprises at the 90-day read point and just trying to understand things a little better. So we've trained Greg to go out and use the handheld, and he comes in early on a Monday now and samples a few accounts just so we can take stronger stances if we have to, one way or the other, as we identify what might be going on. But, thank you, Charlie.
Okay.
Again, a little segue in when he talks about reporting and testing locations, something in the regular meeting. We'll keep that in the back of your heads, something we're going to work on. The long-awaited, looks like Deputy Mayor Kowalchuk for his sequence of reports. And there you go.
Yes, sir. And can I get a copy of that, the water report, the inspections or the leak detect stuff just for my record so I can look at that?
Yep.
I'll start with the Village Green Committee. The expenses are basically the same as they were last month. The report on the donation we got, I'll talk about that. There were no Village Green Committee meetings held during the month of November. 3 of our officers are working on our Tree City USA application. This will be our 19th year. If they get it in, deadline is the end of December. So I know they're working on it, and hopefully they'll have it submitted before the end of the year. And the Village Green Committee and the Village Board of Trustees would like to thank an awful lot Dave Hughes of Dave's Tree Service for his donation to the Village Green Committee's tree planting and community beautification efforts. Dave, in his letter, thanked everyone for their great work and for keeping his hometown green. So thanks again, Dave, and look forward to working with you in the future as well. And as always, residents and businesses interested in having a tree planted on their right-of-way or volunteering for planting days or making a donation to support the various community beautification projects that the Village Green Committee does may contact David Pearson, the village clerk, or myself. Highway report. The highway department is done picking up leaves and brush. That ended on December 11th, last Friday. And I don't know, some of you may or may not know, but the highway department's leaf vacuum machine experienced mechanical difficulty. A new motor has been ordered and should be installed by the end of December, which really didn't help us with leaf pickup. And in the meantime, to help facilitate and continue leaf removal services to village residents, the Village of Rhinebeck did assist the Village of Red Hook's Highway Department, as well did Aaron Glen Landscaping. They provided their equipment and manpower to help pick up leaves in the village as a result of our truck being on demand. So we'd like to thank both Village of Rhinebeck and AGL for their help. The Village's snow ordinances is currently in effect through March 31st. No parking is permitted on village streets from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. and on New York State highways, which would be Route 9 Broadway and Route 199 Market Street from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. during the same period. Any vehicle parked or abandoned on any street may be removed by or under the direction of the Red Hook Police Department or any responding law enforcement agency. And all costs associated with vehicle towing will be charged to the vehicle's owners. And also, there's rumor of a big snowstorm happening on Wednesday, Thursday. Occupant of every building or lot in the village with an adjoining sidewalk shall remove snow and ice within a 24-hour period of the snowstorm. At the direction of the Village Board of Trustees, the Village Highway Department may remove snow and ice left uncleared at a cost of $2 per linear foot. This is not a service that we offer, but is a way to keep the sidewalks safe for pedestrians. And this cost will be assessed to the property owner and collected with the next tax levy. This month, unfortunately, we did not have any revenue generated from scrap metal. The balance so far this year is $1,488.40. And since inception in 2007, we've raised almost $33,000. And this money does go to purchase tools and equipment for the village highway, water, and materials management department. The Red Hook Infrastructure and Intermunicipal Task Force monthly report. The Red Hook Sewer Project, we're in, I wouldn't say really limbo, but we are in, I can't even say patiently waiting either, but all of our documents are currently being reviewed by the USDA Rural Development as part of letters of conditions, which are necessary to be approved by USDA before we go out to bid. And I know both Ed and I have contacted the U.S. Congressman and U.S. Senator for their assistance and trying to move this process along, and we thank their responses, and we're still waiting. As of last week, we still haven't heard anything, so I don't know what the delay is, but we have to get this signed off by USDA. We think we have everything in and everything's correct.
Brent?
Yes, sir.
Do they have a fixed review time period, like, 30, 45 days or anything like that?
No, we've been submitting, this is the second, we've gone through a period of changes with personnel at USDA.
Right.
And so this is part of that. There's also, I think they're working with the transition right now, which is part of it. USDA is also working from home. So there's this kind of confluence of things that we're unexpectedly having to deal with, and everything kind of it's helping. It's not progressing the way we would like it. So
do they send a notice that says, we acknowledge that we've received a complete application or anything like that?
Sometimes, and that's one of the reasons we've been contacting our congressmen and senators to make sure that they've gotten everything,
right,
that we have everything submitted. They're usually pretty good. If there's something that's missing, they'll contact our attorney or the mayor or our engineers. So we've been working with state agencies, federal agencies, regulatory agencies in the state as well. So
yeah,
we're close. We're really close.
I know, it sounds it. It's just, difficult times for all agencies, and,
it is
scattered.
So the federal agency, again, I think they are starting to work on the transition. So they may enter into it, but we don't know. The tower generator project, I think that is on the agenda for.
Yeah, why don't we skip to that, Brent? We'll go later.
Yep. And the Village of Red Hook Water Sewer Administration projects, we are still in talks with Delaware Engineering, VRI, and
C3.
C3 environmental consultants to better coordinate our meter readings, billings, and repair maintenance and general operation procedures. And we did get a white paper that was circulated from the mayor from the University of North Carolina, which was interesting to read on some of the problems that we're having, and maybe some of the solutions are in these white papers. The Village of Red Hook crosswalk signal devices, they are installed. I did push a button. You push a button and these beacons come on. They're powered by solar. It talks to you in 2 different languages, English and Spanish. Tells you when to go. So it's both of the new ones that we have on South Broadway and Fraley Street, across from the library, and South Broadway and Prince Street, across from the Village building, are running, and they joined our new ones on Banner Road and West Market Street, and one down on South Broadway and Morgan's Way. So all 4 installed, thanks to a New York State DOT FAST grant, which took about 3 years. 3 years, Ed? That's not exaggerating, right?
Yeah, I think 3.25 or something.
Okay, we'll round it around, but it's in, it works, it's great. They work at night is when I tested it. So it's, people do stop, but still be cautious and look both ways and make sure traffic does stop for sure before you cross. On the Intermunicipal Task Force, we did have a meeting. It was virtual on Zoom, and we were talking about the short-term rental, the annual operating permit draft. We reviewed the Town of Red Hook use table. These are all for the Town of Red Hook and not for the Village of Red Hook. Primarily for the short-term rental discussions and zoning amendments. So we worked on that, and I think we agreed to some draft legislation that's been sent off to the town's planner and also attorney for a final draft. And I think there will be a public informational meeting hosted by the Intermunicipal Task Force and the Red Hook Economic Development Committee, and that will be scheduled once we get the final draft back. So one more report, try to make it quick. There were no meetings of the Reddicktown Zoning Review Committee, the Community Preservation Fund Advisory Board. On the CPF side, the current balance of the Community Preservation Fund as of November 30th is $1,687,510.32. We've been seeing this number go up rapidly, since March, and probably because of all the real estate transactions that have occurred in the village and the town of Red Hook. There were no Sawkill Watershed community meetings held this month. Issue 12 of the Sawkill Watershed newsletter was circulated online. The town of Red Hook local waterfront revitalization program working group, we did not meet. We are waiting for the New York State Department of State for their review of what we had done as far as amending the existing LWRP, and there will be a public informational meeting set by the town board and the community to review the update plan. We did have a meeting of the Northern Dutchess Alliance Executive Committee via Zoom. Well, I'm sorry, we didn't. We had one in December. So, in the Village of Red Hook Zoning Review Committee, there were no Village Zoning Review Committees held during the month of November. We did circulate some changes and amendments based on comments that we received from our planner. We are still awaiting comments from and final draft from our attorney. And Delaware Engineering has prepared an amended zoning map that reflects the expansion of the highway business and NMU districts. And that's about where we stand, Ed.
Thank you, Brett. I made some notes as you're going, but I think we'll just move on to the next phase of our meeting. That concludes committee and department reports. Let's move into the regular business section. The first thing I have on there is Dutchess County Water and Wastewater Authority, DCWWA. Tradition is the housing development being built in the town of Reddick, back on Old Farm Road. Bridget Barkley, who's executive director of DCWWA, reached out about a month ago or more, looking for an option from us, which I think is fine. I'll describe it in a minute. If you could pull out your water reports, you'll notice we take now 3 location samples for coliform and E. coli. What they're looking to do, they have about 7 or 8 units built. They think by the end of 2021, they might have about 30 units built. And they're asking if we could help, instead of them sending operators up to take samples, and then from there, the way it's set up, the Water Authority actually operates the water system inside the project, inside the development. We just provide water out to the main and the main meter on the Old Farm Road location. What they're asking is, it's a term I never heard of. I had it researched by council and by them. They're looking for us to sign what's called a consecutive agreement. It enables us to take a 4th water sampling point within their projects and then send it to the lab, and we get the report back, and DOH will live with the report that we generate monthly. What Charlie reads is a whole set of documents that go to the Department of Health with that data as well. It's not just us reading it out loud to ourselves for the heck of it. It's an actual formal reporting system every month. It made sense to me. Well, you do recall we charge them more than the village resident pays in water rate, and then on top of that, I talked to our operators. They don't have any problem doing it. This past month, or this past quarter rather, just for a point of reference, the amount the authority paid us was $10,000 and change for the water consumed down there. So it's generating revenue for us and so forth. What I want to do tonight, Barkley and the Water Authority developed an agreement. Rich Olson from our legal team has reviewed it and sees no problem. In a nutshell, we're still tweaking. I want a definition in there what a consecutive water system means. And we did add this agreement would only be in effect for the year 2021. We can do it forever. We have a separate contract with them on the water sales. It took probably 18 months to develop. I forget how long it took. But, this is a supplementary item. And as I interpret it, like I said, it's really just one. We have to add a sampling point, and we can do that. And it's not a huge expense for us. It's one more lab test as the guy's going down with the other 3 samples. It's nothing out of sequence or costing us a ton more money. And DOH felt it would make sense given where the project is right now as well. So what I want to do is, I don't feel like the document is totally complete, but I think before the year ends, I'd like to be able to sign it. And then next month when our operator takes their samples, they would pick up a sample there and move on. So what I would ask is, if there's no substantial changes in it and council approves it, that I'd be authorized to sign what's called the agreement between the Village of Red Hook and the Dutchess Water Wastewater Authority for the operation of a consecutive water system. And it's really defined. It talks about the term of the agreement is for 1 year, commencing January 1, 2021, and ending December 31, 2021. So that's what I was thinking. I'm going to suggest we're not going to meet again in the current 2020 year. So it's I'd like to be able to get myself satisfied, but I wanted your thoughts and endorsement to do that. So
Can we see the report? Can we get a report?
Well, it's not a report, it's a contract, and are you talking
the
like,
agreement, I want the agreement that we're gonna agree to have you
are you
sign.
saying you don't have it? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'd like to see the agreement that,
Yeah, I thought we forwarded it to you though, but,
and you said there's some changes that the attorney's gonna make to it.
yeah, we want to add a definition, like, because when I hear the word a consecutive water system, it's at, I think it should be defined somewhere. Give me some thoughts, some input. So did nobody see?
I'd like to see the agreement.
Yeah.
Can we get a copy put in our mailbox? I mean,
Certainly. Yeah, I thought it went out to you guys, but let's see. Let's see what we can do here. Well, I don't know. We could, the next meeting is January 11th. I guess it could be tweaked to be effective February 1st to, I don't know what the other board members think. Has anybody seen it in their packets? Is that for me? Maybe you didn't get it because Brent is very on point and in tune with document receipt. So
that came in Sunday and it wasn't in the box on Sunday, so it's as it came in today. So
I've been circulating everything digital as attachments, so that's how I would have done it.
Yeah, I didn't see it in the attachments either. I mean, I'm okay with you signing it. I just want to, see it. Make sure that I agree to what the agreement says.
Well, maybe we could do, instead of, I was thinking of foregoing the workshop meeting, which is scheduled for Thursday of this week. Maybe we could put paper copies in your boxes. I'll poll you all after, like, say Friday morning, like midday Friday. And,
That's great.
And then that could work. The big thing is, I'm convinced we're not getting hurt. We're not losing anything here. Right. We'll get paper copies in your boxes, and I'll send a digital version to those that can't come in during the week. And okay.
Great. Thanks, Ed.
Okay, thanks. Fire company drive-by Santa, we essentially talked about. I just wanted to get it on the record that it's out there. I think we dealt with it enough in the course of Jen's reporting on celebrations. So if you have kids, grandkids, whatever, sometime between 10 a.m. and 12 noon. We're not directly running it, so we don't know all the logistics, but if you hear sirens and see at that time, that's what's happening. Police redesign. What we've got, as the Human Rights Commission, Jody Miller mentioned, around 4:15 today, I did circulate, I remember clicking that send button, the final version of the Dutchess County collaborative effort was published, and I would not expect you to have read it by 2 hours later, or whatever it is, 4 hours later. We had circulated draft 1, then we circulated draft 2, and fortunately draft 2 was the almost final culmination of the project. I haven't compared draft 2 yet to what I just sent on. Part of my logic is with foregoing the workshop week, and then what I want to segue into here is I think we need to start meeting more frequently once January hits, because we have that April 1, 2021 deadline to get this done. The collaborative comes up with key points. We've been picking and gleaning already and working on certain things, which we'll talk about in a moment. But what I would ask the board to do is, in the quiet days of the holiday season, whatever, read through the final report. And like I said, we've picked keywords already that we think we'd be inclined to further review and incorporate. But I want to get all of your input on that. And even though we'll have to do it remotely, I already booked some meetings for us January 7 and January 21 in Zoom format. I think we'd like to combine efforts because in some instances there is a natural combination, but it's not the sole consideration. We also now move into our budget season, which all of us so dearly love, right? We have essentially by a point in March, we have to have a tentative budget, and then May, we have to have the real budget adopted. And I think as a rule in the past, we've always increased our meeting schedule in workshop format to deal with budget. I know we're gonna have to do the same thing with this police reform. We have to glean and adopt the concepts we want to incorporate in our new policy and in our new operations, whatever they may be. And then we have to do some more localized public hearings and so forth, work with more localized stakeholder group. There's a lot of work here, and it's all worthwhile work, but I'm looking at that let the holiday season go by, give everybody a chance to read it. It's 106 pages long, at least the last version I looked at. I did, just so you know, sent it off to Minuteman Press, asked for a color copy with the coil binding, so you could sit there with your marker or whatever and just pick at it, 8 or 10 pages a night, a week, whatever your calendar allows. I think that's, at least for me, it's way easier to analyze instead of looking at just the digital version. But so we'll work on that. But a couple of keywords that we're seeing that we've gleaned off the public forums we've held already, the work to get toward body-worn cameras. And I think Patrick, let me see if he's still out there. Patrick Hildebrand, you out there? You have to unmute yourself, Patrick. You show as muted.
I'm here.
Okay, good. Thank you. At our November 19th workshop meeting, we touched on the body camera issue, talked about a vendor, Motorola, and their product is called WatchGuard. I have some papers in my file here. And we've done more research since then. We've looked at reaching out to the town of Red Hook, looked at some grant potentialities. But you will recall it's about a $12,000 or $13,000 expense, and we did it confirmation. We did a position letter to the town of Red Hook, and they agreed to share in I think a fair contribution level. They were mentioning they could go up to $5,000 toward the purchase. We made the argument that it benefits everybody, meaning the general public, the police officers, the village residents, the town residents, visitors to both entities, and the town concurred. When Patrick and I sat with the vendor, Patrick did point out that there is a 3-month lead time on the order to actual delivery time. And Patrick is working on, I've read the draft of our policy manual insert. Since right now we have no body-worn cameras, we need to insert policy, deals with how they're used, how things are recorded, what's expected of the staff employees, and then also we looked at the financing, the legality. It's a project underway. I would say the policy manual will probably be ready in 2 weeks or something like that. He and I are going back and forth on, and we know there may or may not be. I think there will be some mention will have to be made theoretically in the union negotiation terms, like just something that references it as a piece of equipment. Certain things, even in our current union contract, we define equipment we provide and certain expectations we have of our staff. That'll come up. That contract, just so you know, starts to get, it actually terminates, the current one terminates May 31, 2021, but we start in a normal year negotiating that around February, March too. So it's, which is about 9 years out now. And I think it all segues into the April 2021 deadline, where I would like to be able to say, hey, we've heard public comment, we've seen national events, we see the strength of video and audio, and the cost, even though we're not budgeted today for it, we found a way to share it. We looked at the county and different things too, but they may or may not do something. You all might remember the big booklet of our tax shared services savings plans. We can add that as a project, but that's an if and when the state might ever reimburse a portion of what's called the savings down the road. And I think it's more immediate. We need to get going on this. That's my little spiel at the moment. We can get more specific, but Patrick, did you want to throw in a few thoughts and ideas from where you guys are looking at it?
Yeah. How's everybody doing? Sorry about the video before. It took me a minute to figure it out
Yes.
on my computer.
I'm gonna go get a glass of water. I'll be back in 8 seconds, but you start with them, okay?
Okay. Hey guys, how you doing? So I know Ed and I have talked about the body cameras for a while. It's been something that my officers have been really asking me for. They keep asking me for probably the past year or two. And it got to the point where I wasn't really, I hadn't brought up to Ed yet. We've been lightly discussing it, but nothing was concrete. So it got to the point where these guys were like, Pat, can we please, we're just going to buy our own off Amazon that record. And obviously you can't do that because you have to, maintain, videos for a certain amount of time and back them up because it's all material the DA's office could request. And the defense is a lot to have. So it got to the point, and here's the thing for me. I mean, I've been on 14 and a half years, and I want a body camera in the worst way. And the reason being is it's difficult. You guys have your police reports in front of you, and it shows the incidents, and it shows the calls we go on. But it's much different. There's no detail to it. We go on calls. I tell everybody, we have a great community. I grew up here, and this is our community. But we work here, right? So we deal with the physical domestics. We deal with the people being super confrontational with us. We deal with the people just being irate in different kind of calls, or even people that aren't that way, and you have medical calls. You might have, last year we had an officer involved shooting alone. Natalia, and one of my female officers, a few weeks later gets attacked in the village of Red Hook, and that woman does almost a year in jail for it. I can't show you guys. I can't show a DA's office. I can't show an attorney a different side of it. There's, even if we get police complaints, if someone, I tell everybody my office is always open. I give them a complaint form. You're welcome to fill it out. But I have no way of investigating. It's very difficult to investigate that because it's potentially a one-sided story. I'm big on transparency, always have been. All my officers do the right thing. There's a lot of police departments where the police officers don't want body cameras, and it becomes a union issue and it becomes a negotiation issue. We have every single officer that is literally at my door weekly begging me to get body cameras. And to me, that makes me feel good because I know they're doing the right thing. They do the right thing. If they weren't, they wouldn't be asking for those body cameras for that kind of transparency. And we deal with it a lot. We deal with people that are very confrontational. There's times when we have to go hands-on with people. And we want that on camera because it's our officers that are getting attacked, not us going the opposite way. And even if it's a traffic stop, I stopped a car the other day, super polite, walked up and just started lighting me up, which was fine. Got all the information. I'm always super polite. They apologize at the end, but it's that initial, if they weren't that way, these are things that you as board members, you could get those complaints from those people in the traffic stops potentially. And then it puts that potentially false thought in your mind about things that we're doing on the road when there's a completely different side of that story. And one, in my opinion, not my opinion, but if you YouTube a lot, it definitely helps out with, when you have lawsuits, you have people that file lawsuits. A lot of those are completely squashed by body camera footage. So, it's an important tool that I think every police department is going to. I think when I spoke to WatchGuard and, Ed was there, for the price of the body cameras and for what they are, it's a really, really important tool that we need as a police department. And I think every police department eventually go there. But for us right now and for what we can get them for, especially the timing, I think it's really important. I know every single one of my officers have literally begged me to do my best to try to get body cameras for them. So it's an important tool. We definitely need them.
Patrick, have you seen the cameras we're talking about in action?
Yeah. So we did demonstration with WatchGuard. They showed us a demonstration. A couple of our part-time officers work full-time or part-time in other agencies that have the exact same cameras. So I've seen them with the presentation that we were given by WatchGuard. You know, Rhinebeck PD, they have WatchGuard as well, except theirs are in their car and not on the body camera. And the important, you know, the difference with that is there's a distance. So you have a camera in a car and you're mic'd up on your uniform shirt. But when you go so many feet away from the car, you lose all audio, and obviously you lose camera because you're out of the sight of it. So the body camera is always on you. So when you go inside to a domestic, you're inside. You know, when you go out of the range, maybe to the left of the car or behind the car, your camera's still on, and you're never really out of that range. So there's always a video and there's always audio. So you see, like the city of Poughkeepsie this past year, they put all their officers on body cameras. So there's definitely a plus to a body camera than a car camera. Some agencies have both. They're just a big expense to have both of those.
And so, Patrick, as far as the technology goes, is there a way we can upgrade this equipment once the technology does evolve?
Yeah, so
without buying all new stuff.
Yeah, so the way the gentleman, when he spoke with us, he looks at a 3 to 5 year plan. And I say 3 to 5 years, you know, depends on their wear and tear. If you're in a really, depends on the wear and tear of the body cameras, how rugged you are with them, how you take care of them. But he said the life expectancy they put on them is 5 years. And in 5 years, the technology can change so much between now and 5 years from now that you basically rebudget for the purchase again in 5 years, because you can't take old cameras and put new technology in them.
So you have to replace the whole cameras. Okay.
Correct.
Yeah, I think we touched on that in the workshop, Brent, and I think even 5 years in the world of technology might be stretching it. So I think essentially what we have to fight as the board here is we don't have a budget line now. I would suggest we use, the town's contribution and fund balance, but I think realistically, we're probably going to be changing these out every 3 to 4 years. So in the budget cycle, that's why I said there's a little bit of a segue with police budgeting. I think we're going to have to look at a new line, pay this, if we do this tonight, pay for this order, but then somehow do that ongoing budgeting in some shape or form. So we're ready in 3 to 4 years. Because even on less sophisticated things like radio read meters, we've seen water meters that are outdated and quicker than we would have imagined.
Yeah, go ahead.
So we'd want to have them with state of the art, but we don't need to spend too much. But what I was impressed with was the management impact is so positive for helping protect the public and the officers, but there's very little detailed, how do you say, housekeeping management. The unit comes in, gets plugged into a docking station, gets recharged, automatically uploads. No sergeant, no lieutenant, no officer in charge has to really do anything physical, and things that can be forgotten in the human world. It's just they come in, they put them in, and that's why we'd probably want to put something in the policy, of course, and then in the contract, that touches maybe a sentence or two on you shall use these and you shall, turn them in at the end of the day into the docking station. Certain little technical things, but I didn't see anything shown to us that would make Patrick do another hour a day of work or an hour a day a week rather than an hour a week of work. It was just kind of real simple, which was impressive to me.
Are there any costs after the initial purchase, or any interim costs before it goes out of style?
Well, we looked at the size of our department, and what you do estimate is the storage. The record is stored in the cloud, and given the size and hours we're in operation, they're pretty good. WatchGuard projected what we would cost, what we would use as far as cloud storage, and if we were to get bigger or more shifts, I could see that could change. But that I think they actually buy the time from Google or buy the space from, I forget what cloud they're in, but it's the we might be putting more up into storage. It's not a huge piece of the cost. One thing, there is the share with the county option, where let's say we're sharing with the sheriff's office and the bigger agencies that might go into that program. But I think that's where we would get beat. There would be so much data storage cost that we'd be asked to contribute into, that we would, I think we're better off just being Reddick PD with our own source, our own storage area, and the amount of data we know we would generate. Patrick has a lot of specifics about, essentially the recorders run all day. When he puts them on, when the officer, he or she puts them on, the video is on. And then they can tag when they're done with an incident. There's an indexing system where they tag it, and depending on tagging, that's what goes off to certain longer term storage. It's really very, very simple and sophisticated. And it's designed to be, I think, inobtrusive physically or unobtrusive physically, and to the officer, and they look rugged, and they're also like, there is a light that makes the public know they're being recorded too. Like you can see there's like a visual cue, but it is adaptable if they're in a high tension nighttime. Not that they come up that often, but we had some. They can drop that light off. And could you talk about nighttime pullovers, Patrick?
Sure, yeah. That's the thing too, is you gotta remember is, these guys work a lot at night. So we do DWI contracts that we do. You guys are working until 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. Now it gets dark at 5:30. So how it works is, one question that came up, and I'm sure it's something that probably has crossed your mind or will when I say it, is someone asked, hey, is there a night vision mode on it? And the importance of body cameras is for that camera, if it ever goes to, potentially for a court, or it gets somehow attached to a case that, maybe an arrest or a traffic stop, that it shows an image exactly how we see it with our eye. Because if it has night vision on it, it has a much clearer image on that, whatever we're looking at, than what our eye sees. So it wouldn't be the same thing. So how it works is the body camera sees what we see. However we see it in the darkness, that's how the body camera sees it. In low light conditions, as a police officer, when you go in low light conditions, you have obviously your light on your duty belt. So when we turn the light on at night and it illuminates something, however it illuminates that maybe the person we're looking at, the door we're going to go in, the room we're searching because we found there's a burglar alarm, potentially a person on a traffic stop. However we see it with the light on, that's how the body camera picks it up. So if you ever, obviously if it goes to court and you testify to it, you can say, that is exactly how I saw it, not potentially in a night vision mode where you're like, no, it's not how I saw it because I can't see night vision. The cameras are very smart. They adjust to whatever light they're picking up. So again, how we see it, that's how the camera sees it. And how I was touching on, with the cameras is, at the beginning of a shift, obviously they're all mandatory. It's not an option to whether you wear it or whether you don't. When you come in, you pick the camera up out of the charger. It goes to something that attaches to your uniform. You put it on. The camera is always recording. And hear me out when I say that, because it kind of doesn't make sense to you. So the camera's always recording on. It's always recording. So I walk out the police station. I get into my patrol car. I drive down to the X-Mart potentially. I hop out to get a coffee, and all of a sudden someone bombards me from my left-hand side and tackles me, hypothetically. How the camera works is, it's self-initiated. So if we get a 911 call, we're leaving the police department, we press the camera. The camera's on. We respond to the call. We're in the police car. We get to the scene. We handle the call. At the end of the call, when we clear with 911 and say, hey, 7K134 County, we're clear, then I shut the camera off. That makes an incident. And in the camera, there's options. You say, we put a list of options. I'll go through them. I put one hypothetically, DWI, domestic, mental health, EMS call, whatever it might be. I list those items. It gets tagged for the kind of call we were on, auto accident, whatever it might be. And then when they come back to the station at the end of the shift, when they plug that in, all those initiations get uploaded automatically to the cloud. Now I'm going to go back for a minute. We'll go back to the X-Mart story. So I get out of the car. I'm walking up and someone just tackles me, right? So I obviously didn't see that incident coming, so I couldn't initiate the camera. So I could go back. So, whatever we're doing, I get him in custody. I could go back that day and still pull up body camera footage. It has to be an administrator only, so I'm the only one that can do it. I could go in and still pull that camera footage up, even though I didn't initiate it. It's still there. It's just no audio. So the video is always going. There's just no audio. The audio and video are both on when you press that button. But you want that option because a lot of times it's not always going to be like, hey, Pat, here's the incident coming up. Make sure you press that button. You're going to have things that you walk up upon and be like, or it's going to be a learning curve because we've never had body cameras in all of our history, right? So I've been on 14 and a half years. I've never worn a body camera. So it's going to be, go to a call and they're going to be like, hey, Sarge, I pressed that camera a few minutes late. Can you get the footage? I was there 5 minutes earlier. And I can pull the footage, link it with when they pressed it, and it's the incident. So it's not going to be the time where it's like, oh, I didn't have the camera on, or like, oh, I didn't catch that because I forgot to turn it on. I can always get it because the camera's always running. So it's always running, just not audio. The audio and video are both running once you initiate it. So there's some really good factors to it. It's like, but say there's an auto accident. This happens in I watch a lot of YouTube videos on body cameras and how they're a really useful tool. And it really gives a person who doesn't have police training and you're not in the field a really good view of an incident. And when I watch these incidents, and I encourage everybody to YouTube body camera, police with body camera incidents, because if you had just heard how the call came out, you would think completely different than what you saw on the video. The videos are a huge tool. Like I said, the camera's just smart. It's meant to make it not a lot of work. When it uploads in the cloud, it has a direct DEMS link. And we all talked about, DEMS. The paper has to be in by a certain amount of time. Went over that with everybody a while back. So there's a DEMS link. So when there's a video and a DA's office requests something, obviously I can connect to the cloud, transfer it right out, and it's important. The videos, body cameras are just the way of the future. It's happening. Every police department is going to go to it, and the sooner we can get them, the safer it is, honestly, for our officers. It's so, I can't tell you enough. You probably heard me say 15 times tonight. It's super important for these guys to have body cameras on.
Well, it's important from everybody's perspective, and I think
Correct.
One thing I was want to elaborate on, when we developed the policy manual, which, like I said, is probably 80-90% done, or the contract interaction. Let's say a typical V&T road stop where an implicit bias or some sort of incident could arise. We have to make it that the officer, and it's in the current draft of the policy manual, you don't rely on the running camera and no audio in those situations. They would be obligated, if they're pulling me over for doing 62 on West Market, when they get out of the car, they turn on or they start recording as they walk up to me. I think Patrick has a line.
Regardless of the incident, I don't think it has anything really to do, like, regardless of the traffic stop, regardless of what it is, every single call they go on, whether it's a medical call, traffic stop, foot patrol, whatever it might be, that camera's on. Once they get out of the car and initiate, it's on.
I know the on is good, but we need the audio too. And I think
I'm telling you, it's on. Yeah, it's on. It's activated.
The audio.
Anything a police officer does is activated. And when I say activated, that means audio and video. Yeah, anything they're dispatched to, anything they self-initiate dispatch. So we do security checks on the water towers, right? So when that officer gets out of the car to do the water check, his camera's going to be on. Anything he self-initiates or we get initiated for, traffic stops, 911 calls, dispatched by the state police. Sometimes Laura will get a phone, she picks up the police phone. I need you to respond for a burglar alarm at the Red Hook High School, the door open. The camera goes on. No matter what, as soon as they get out of that car and they self-initiate a call or sent to a call, the camera's on.
And that'll be in the policy and
correct.
Yeah.
Yep, that's all listed in policy.
But I think what Ed was asking, if the audio and video are always on, and I thought you said that the video is always on, but you have to activate the button to have the audio come on at that.
Correct.
But we want to be sure that in the issues that are going to be one of the things we want to address we'll need the audio. And as I read the policy manual, it requires that the button be pushed when they're starting to have an interaction. When he was talking about video being on all the time, that's if there's something sudden where, it doesn't happen too often, fortunately, but if somebody blindsides somebody, at least there's some video they can pick up some
Correct.
cues. But it's more from our perspective, the V&T, the normal pullover at 3:30 p.m. on a clear, dry day. If somebody alleges, hey, officer so-and-so spoke down to me, belittled me, was.
But I mean, if we weren't turning them on, we wouldn't need body cameras. I mean, you know what I mean? So that, I said, if we weren't turning them on for those incidents, we wouldn't need body cameras. What's the point of buying them, right?
So
So
what I'm saying is, I don't have the policy manual in front of me, but I remember seeing that as a line item that,
yeah,
they initiated. And that's where the discipline and the policy and the contract come in. Like if somebody says, I'm not turning it on, we have to have the teeth to say, yeah, you do, or you don't work here, So
correct. Well, that is obviously clearly in there. That is remember too is when we hire somebody, they read through our policy and procedures, and before they go on the road, they sign a receipt that they read and agree to all the policies and procedures they read that we have in our police manual. So it's not it's really not up for a debate or an option. I mean, it's obviously a mandatory thing.
Let's move on a little bit. Pat, stay with us for a minute.
Sure.
Like I mentioned at the workshop on 19 November, the WatchGuard quote is a New York State contract. They give a contract number 21090. So we know we're getting the fair price. We don't need to do procurement and bidding and all that stuff. There's not a lot of competition out there. Our guys, one of the tests I like to give, the users need to give the best blessing of it. They've seen it and they see the competition. I think, we touched on it the last meeting. I'd like to move further ahead so we can sequence out the timeline. And we like to say, and we work to be sure it's true, that we have a smart and modern police department, ranging from our hiring techniques to the people we hire to our management team and our oversight. I think this would be a good step forward, and I think we've had 3 or 4 weeks to think about it a little more. And I circulated, I think, some links with some video and different things. There were more marketing perspective, but you all had a chance to think. The bottom line is, it's for 8 units, it's $12,895. I know we had one question: should we get 10 units? I don't know. We've got a quote. It would just be doing the math. It'd be that much more. 8 into 12, 15,000 is. I can't do the math in my head, but it's what we do. I think Patrick felt we could start with 8 and live with 8. Do you still feel that way, Patrick? I mean, that number came from you.
Yeah, I think I started with 8 because I wanted to start at a point where it was an affordable number, because I know they're important to do. The thing with body cameras is it's difficult to share them. So I kind of was 10 would be ideal. 10 would be ideal. I could live with 7, but I'm also looking at if one goes down as a backup, because what I don't want is the one to go down and then me to say, hey, Ed, these guys are working this event, but I'm short one, so there's going to be a guy out there with no body camera. That's what I don't want. So I know I did the numbers between 8 and 10, but I'm at home and they're on my desk at work, so I can't give them to you right now.
Well, on any given day, we have 2 shifts and an SRO. So on any
me.
Pardon me?
Yeah, 2 shifts. Yeah, go ahead.
So so there's always less than 8 on a given day working. But
I think 8 is fine.
Okay.
I think 8 is fine.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's because I've kind of broken it up on who I would assign them to.
Yeah, because if we're doing a town shift and a village shift, we'd have 2 to 4 guys on.
DWI shift, potentially 3. So yeah, we can do 8.
Yeah. I would like to move like a 3-pronged approach. One is to be consistent with where we want to go with police redesign. I think that the sergeant has to work and finish the policy insert. We have to see if there's any what contractual wording we have to incorporate in the next union contract cycle, and then have Labor Council look at it all too. But I just think the time is now, and it's going to protect everybody so much, I think. Like I keep saying, our public, our staff, visitors, and if the town, which we know they did buy our argument, they'll contribute. So essentially, we're talking just a few bucks less, $5 less than $13,000, less $5,000 from the town is $8,000 from us. I would move. We can ask for a second and some discussion that the village, in an effort to work with police redesign and reform, purchase 8 body-worn cameras for our officers and management under state contract PM 2110. I'll say the number better, Lara. PM 21090 from WatchGuard for $12,895, with the condition that police management will perfect the policy manual, legal and union contracts will be reviewed, and we can make the order now and look to have them in our possession in 90 days, plus or minus, as those other pieces of the project go on. So a lot of words there, but I would offer that as in the form of a motion and ask for a second so we can talk more.
Second.
Like I said, I think
I had a question, Ed.
Sure.
Does this require an IMA with the town of Red Hook, or is this something that they're going to put in their budget, or they're just going to write us a check? I mean,
Yeah, I don't see an IMA. The position I put forward is we will own the units. We're not sharing ownership of the units or any piece of it. We'll maintain them. I'm just looking for a contribution check. We'll show them. You know how we do with Hardscrabble a bit, like they agree to share on a cost. We give them an invoice and we say, here, pay your agreed percentage. And
okay.
That's why I envision it. Any other thoughts from the board? We have a motion and a second. I would call to a vote. Blondell would vote yes. Kowalczyk?
Yes.
Let's see, Mr. Noonan?
Yes.
Ms. Norris?
Yes.
And Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So we'll work with Patrick during the next few days and we'll keep the various pieces of it going, Patrick, all right?
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for helping get through some of the technical. Yeah, you're in a day-to-day, you're aware, user, manager of it all. And we see it a bit from afar, but we know, I'm convinced it's a good step for everybody. So
Yes, I'll keep everybody updated as we go.
I'm psyched
Thanks,
about it.
Patrick.
Okay. All right, let's see. Reddick Library. I saw some library folks on there. As I'm grabbing some paper, we have in our front window now the story tour, I think is the right word, story walk. They might correct me, but there's probably 15 or 20 book stations cut into business storefront windows and our office storefront window here. The design is to entice young parents and young kids to walk around. And we're selfish, it'll get them walking and maybe walking into a store that they're reading the little story page from. And it's that time of the year where we're trying to push the street and shop local, shop local. I see Amy lit up a little bit there. Amy Smith is with the library. Did you have any color commentary you wanted to talk about, Amy?
Just to say that there's 26 stops.
26.
And they're all in businesses in the village.
Yeah.
Except for the one in the library and Village Hall.
What are they, like 24 inches by 15 maybe? They're laminated.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Multiple pages from a amusing kid story in English and Spanish.
Yeah, they look good in our front window there. I think you have to read through like the office hours or something a little bit, but it's readable. But it's fun. It's a nice little project. Thanks for doing that. And I think Corca helped out, I think, was from what I heard. But for our board and our business, even though the library is not funded or operated directly by us, it's a municipal chartered library, which is legalese. We have the honor and duty of appointing the board members of the library, and then they operate and independently make their own decisions. We've seen huge success at the library in the past 8 to 10 years. It's really become far more powerful and more important to the whole town and village of Red Hook, and they're doing great work. They have a board member opening. I think we did some appointments maybe 6 or 8 weeks ago at a meeting. Another position, and I've got a recommendation from that board, and I'll read out a few things. Retired trustee Jill Hall had left the board. She did a great job for many, many, many years. She's a village resident. And the board had a version of a search committee and did a little work with who they wanted to pick. And they've made a decision. They would ask us to endorse and appoint Cecilia Cortina Segovia, and it'll be a 5-year term. And what they did, they say Cecilia had demonstrated dedicated interest in serving the community via the Red Hook Public Library. She's already served for 3 months in the library's long-range planning committee and has been attending regular board meetings. She has 9 years experience working in government and nonprofit organizations, skilled in project management, community development, and fundraising. Works with social and environmental justice and has developed curricula for workshops. Cecilia is a native of Mexico and has relationships in Red Hook's Spanish-speaking community. And the board is confident that Cecilia's experience, enthusiasm, and commitment will benefit the library and our residents. So with that, I think I am motivated to appoint Cecilia. So I would say under our authority, as prescribed in law and library law, education law, the Village Board of Red Hook appoints Cecilia Cortina Segovia to serve a 5-year term as trustee in the Red Hook Public Library. I would ask for a second on that.
Second.
Any other thoughts, discussion? I don't know if anybody knows Cecilia directly, but sound like we've got an active, interested candidate, which is a great thing for us. So I'd call to a vote. I would say, I'll vote yes. Blondell. Mr. Lang, I see your face, so I'm reminded of you. How do you stand, sir? Did you say yes? Mr. Kowalczyk?
Yes.
Ms. Norris?
Yes.
And Mr. Noonan?
Yes.
Good. So I think the library staff and related that might be on the call can convey the news tonight if they like, or we can convey it tomorrow. Generally, that person comes in. We do ask that they sign an oath of office since it's in the umbrella of an appointed position. So we'll get the word out to Dawn or whoever to get the person to come in. I say come in, and I have to think we're in COVID era. I think now what we do is we make a copy of the page, get it signed and notarized, and then get it back to us for Lara to clip into the book. I think that's how we do it now, Lara. Is that right? Lara?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Cell tower. We're getting near the end of the regular stuff here. Cell tower status, options, contract. Brent touched on it in his department reports. I have a position here. I don't like to say it, but I did bring it up to the board. Even though we've engineered and bid this thing, you'll recall we got bids back at $83,500 was the low bid for a shared common generator. We thought they'd be about $45,000 total. We've asked our tower consultant to keep working on it. At the same time, we got the idea, instead of us fronting the costs from our operating budgets and getting reimbursed by the tenants, we could maybe do a bond variation called a bond anticipation note as we negotiated with the tenants. When we went to bond council, they said, no, they don't think it meets the test of a bondable project, which then goes to the point of, if it's not meeting the test, that means we probably shouldn't fund it jointly and get reimbursed without having the money in hand. The catch-22 for us all is the bid project and process. We have X number of days after opening bids to either accept or reject. And that's like right around now. Like this meeting is like 3 or 4 days away from the 45-day point. I've talked to some board members individually. I've talked to council individually. I've asked them to relook at that position. We sent them one of our tenants' cell tower contracts, but I haven't heard back with a firm, yes, you can go ahead, or a firm, no, you cannot. My inclination, I tend to think the council we use for bond is probably one of the top 10 in the country. It's Hawkins Delafield out of Manhattan. They've been good on every other bond issue we've ever had. And it's the same particular attorney in the firm. Nothing's changed down there. I think we have an option of what bond counsel says is, hey, just have the tenants. We want the shared generator. We don't want the environmental and the noise pollution of multiple generators. Just convince them to, on their own, fund one themselves, which is kind of what we were trying to do anyway, but we were just shepherding the project. But he thinks there's a problem with us laying out the money. And we never ever intended to benefit private enterprise or anything. It's just more, let's do a common project and get reimbursed. And that number came in so big, that's what kind of put me off. I don't think we have the budget wherewithal. We're getting whacked on a few other things. I don't want to lay out 83 in the hope and timeline of getting it back. Long story short, I think we have to tell the successful low bidder, unfortunately, in order to comply with the terms of the bid process, we have to defer the project and look at another option. Maybe council will change their mind or get convinced that the model we projected to use can work. But I don't want to keep this contractor sitting around thinking he's starting a project in 10 days. I don't see a way to 83,500 without a bond. And that's where I'm at on it. I know Brent and I talk about it a little bit more than the others. There is technically the cell tower tenants do have a requirement under FCC to get generator backup. Could they, when we bid, we have to deal with prevailing wage and certain things. If they build, as I say that, I think it's still going to be our property. If they build it in shared format, still, in the end, I think we would want to own it. So
are the vendors even aware that we're considering dumping the responsibility on them? And are they aware that they're going to have to negotiate amongst themselves? Well,
we've had our tower consultant. We actually negotiated with one of the three tenants that, based on the $45,000 shared, which is a $15,000 piece of money. Just what and where he's at, I don't have an up to the moment. He got flummoxed for some other reasons on the project, and when it came in 83.5, he was like, "Oh," I swat away. Yeah, I told him, "Hey, look, it's still a third of if it's costing us 83.5, it's going to cost them about that much." It still will work on it. But to answer your question, these are like national and international companies. He's off talking to them. I don't know where they're at with, it's, but I think from our more local perspective, I don't see how we can promise this contractor we're going to perfect the deal. And our engineers softened them up a little bit, saying, hey, the village is seeing some legal impediments to bonding it. And I think we could have struggled. We could have made the $45,000, but that's almost $30,000 per tenant, and how long is it going to take them to agree to it? And then, I don't want to be in that risk because we're talking about things we never thought of buying before. Leaf vacuum machines for $20,000.
Is there a deadline by the FCC to get this installed? You know that at all?
And I brought that up to bond counsel. I said, if they don't do it, we don't want to lose them as tenants. And that's why he said, well, send me a lease. But I think we have to tell them, hey, can't do it, but we're looking for a way to do it. Be patient. If we can find a way in the spring, if our consultant can get them all to concur, or if bond counsel somehow sees the light. But I'm reluctant to go shopping for a bond counsel that says yes, when bond counsel, who we have supreme respect for, said no. It's like, where does that leave you? It's like, I don't think our guy made a mistake. But anyway, so I was talking with, we use CT Mail as our engineering firm on the project, and I told them we'd be meeting tonight and we'd kick it around. But it's a little obtuse, I know, but I think I'll put in a form of motion, but we have to tell this guy, there's no penalty. We're not going to get like a hit to any fund or anything. It's
But we've already paid engineering costs to have the documents
yeah.
prepared.
And, this way, if we could revitalize it if we put that into the project when we say, well, if you guys build yourselves a common entity, we're still going to own it. I don't see us having somebody privately owning a piece there.
So the missing link is really to get our consultants to have the vendors agree to pay their third of the project costs, plus any additional costs associated with preparing new bid documents.
Yeah, but we can't front the money to
Right.
he works on that agreement, which then, like I said, to me, by logic, then if it's not a public purpose enough to bond, I would say it's not a public purpose enough. Like, we don't, as a rule, build things for people to rent from us. We're not in that real estate business where we have a tower we let out that already exists. We didn't build it to be a cell tower. I think there's a lot of...
Ed, they already obviously have equipment on the water tower. They have the antennas, antennae, and associated equipment. So, the generator would be another piece of equipment that they would have on our site. I don't see that being a great expansion of their uses or particularly problematic. And it just seems to me that if, this respected bond council is concerned about it being a village-owned project, and there is the opportunity to push the contracting and the whole generator off onto the firms that are using the tower, then I think that's that could work. But that prerequisite is that they all play nice together, and presumably one of them would have to take on the maintenance responsibilities, and one of them would actually own the generator, and so they should be able to work that out, right?
That's why we thought we had such a clean and simple solution. That essentially avoided all that interplay between private, essentially they're all competitors, right? They're all, it's Verizon, AT&T, and that's part of T-Mobile now, right? They're the same, but I forget who the third one is,
but they have to play nice a little bit for all the co-locations that they have anyway. So I
agree. I think we're saying the same thing. Like, if we can entice them to go in some private sector modality, but what bond council is telling me, you can't ask the taxpayer to have the exposure of a ban for this kind of project. So I think A, B, C, then therefore we have to tell successful bidder, sorry, we'll re-examine, but we can't give them a contract today. If we sign a contract, we get him whatever is a third down, and it's 30,000 now, 30 midway, and 30 at the end. We don't have that money. It's like that kind of money.
Ed, forgive this new guy question, but what's the benefit for us
if we had a common generator?
Yeah.
There's a noise. Every generator tests once a week, so we didn't really want 4 blasting and burning diesel fuel and making smoke, and even if they burn propane, it's sort of like starting up a tractor engine. They're a big, heavy engine, and we didn't want 3. Okay, this guy's on Monday. This guy's, because Verizon's already up to 4 tenants, so 1 already test cycles. So if we had another 3, we'd have 4 days a week, sometime a day, making noise, and we thought, and I still think it's a common purpose. It makes sense, but for some reason, council, and they're not stick in the mud kind of people. It's just anyway, that's the answer, Will.
Okay, thank you.
But long story short, I think it's the next day or two when this 45-day rule comes up on the bid. I think we need to tell engineer and contractor, sorry guys, we'll look at another model / option, but we can't perfect and sign a contract right now. And I just, in good faith, I can't see the village doing that, unfortunately. So
That sounds right.
I guess to be more appropriate and proper, I should say, I'd like to do a motion. I don't have a resolution drawn up. I wasn't sure where we ended up. If Larry can make a note regarding a shared generator at cell tower. The village board is unable to award the bid to the lowest responsible bidder because of funding and financing issues and bonding issues that have arisen. We will look at models and options, since we do believe we'd rather have a shared generator there, but we can't fund it out of operating or bonding at this point in time. I would offer that as motion and ask for a second.
Second.
I think we kicked it around like we always do. We usually intro and discuss before we discuss, but I like that better anyway. I'll call it a vote. Blundell, I'll vote yes, that we have to. We can't do it. Blundell's yes. Mr. Lang, are you there, sir?
Yes. Sorry, didn't hear you for a sec.
Okay, you're voting yes to not award the bid at this point?
That is correct.
Mr. Kowalczyk?
Yes.
Ms. Norris?
Yes.
And Mr. Noonan?
Yes.
Okay. Hey, this is a little more fun and exciting. The next thing on the agenda, Climate Smart Communities grant application. About 4 or 5 days ago, I was reading some emails. Some of you might remember we worked with Cornell Cooperative Extension, and I think in February 2019, we passed the Climate Smart Community Pledge, was the word. And we've been looking, and we certainly believe in climate smart options, opportunities, and projects. And something crossed my desk, which I took some executive initiative. It's a no-cost grant for $8,000. And it's to appoint what's called a champion. It's their terms. It's a funding agency term where that person will help us work with Cornell Cooperative Extension and the Climate Smart Community world to identify projects and do certain things. At first, I thought we could utilize some of our part-time staff and give them additional pay or additional hours to work on it, or one of us as elected officials. But clauses within it say no, you can't use it to augment your payroll or pay your elected officials anymore. And to be honest, I have no time, no window, no option to give anymore to the village. We got big projects underway between sewer, police reform, and budget coming up. So here's the cool news. I was thinking, who's some of our more active green type folks in the village or town? I made some calls ranging from Bard to the names we all know. And who volunteered but Brenda Cagle. So she's got like a resume that's going to give us a good shot at getting a grant, I think. And I talked to her, and it's essentially designed with code and Zoom. It's not a lot of travel or meetings like anything else. It's all remote now. And what I did, like I said, there was the deadline was today at 5 p.m. So we filed, and I thought I couldn't figure out our meetings at 7. I can't get anybody, and it's not a big deal. We Delaware helped us a little bit with some of the formatting, and it was filed digitally. Brent and I know some of that, like you just push a button and send it off. I don't think we hear it until like February-ish. But if we get it, I would like us to concentrate what I was pushing in the application. I had to do a lot of the writing in the application, for good and bad, but I'd like us to move towards zero waste concepts. Like we do this, our local garbage project, materials management, and heavy recycling. But if we could move people more toward composting, zero waste, and push that aspect of it too. So it's pretty exciting. We'll see what happens. Like grants, like we all know, it's like buying a lottery ticket. We might win, we might not. So we push that off. What else did I say there? Because when I heard the application deadline was today at 5, I was like, oh no. But it was worth going for. And Brenda was psyched about it too. It seemed like she's willing to come out and do a little more. The next item we touched on before, but I'd just like to firm it up. We've got so much going on. I would like to forego, though, the meeting in 3 days for a workshop. I think we're right in the middle of the holiday season for everybody. We're doing one meeting already this week. I think we've hit everything we need to hit today. I do think we all need to read that, the final version of the police reform collaborative document. So I think, like I said earlier, I took the liberty of using Ring Central to book a 7 January and a 21 January Thursday nights. They seem like they're more in our psyche to meet on Thursday nights for the month of January, in conjunction with which would be our January 11th would be our regular meeting. I think that works out well. We can start kicking things around with police reform, talk more in the main meeting January. These would all be Zoom and open to the public, regular, open meeting law would apply. But I see them as a combination of the budget and police reform because, like I said, these two are really intertwined. And then we do have to then start to pick a date to do our own local public hearing. Once we glean what we're going to concentrate on with reform and redesign, we have a burden and a duty to do some more localized public hearings on that. So that'd be it. A note I gave myself for Lara and some bookkeeping. We know Lara is our clerk, and right now it's working out very well. And we know, like, Greg is her deputy. There's this little sidebar to what they do, which is kind of a little bit of a scary part of official business we do. We have what's called a registrar of vital statistics. And since we're right next to a funeral home, anybody that dies in the village of Red Hook, the death certificate is filed here. And you might remember from doing vouchers, like you'd see the registrar of vital statistics. It used to be a paper trail. Now it's gone digital, but Lara's taken the steps to get herself filed as the of record registrar. And it's all something where she has passwords, and it's not the same paper chase. And then we do need a backup just in case she's on vacation or whatever. So I'd like to put Greg. They're not new jobs or anything. You might remember there's some oddity of the law that when the registrar handles a case, they get a $10, I'll call it a stipend. It's like you'll see them in vouchers very rarely, but you'll see it. So when they do handle one, we'll have to double check. I'm not sure in the digital world if it's the same fee still applies because it's a different process, I would imagine. But in any case, we need to acknowledge and put her. When you look at our April meeting, Cindy was still with us. We had Cindy as registrar and Lara as deputy. I want to move that, and I'll do that now, that Lara be named as registrar of vital statistics and Greg, our staffer, be the deputy registrar. I would ask for a second.
Second.
And, I don't think there's too much. They're our main people, and we're not going to ask Ray Toll, our treasurer, to do it, or Patrick Hildebrand, our police sergeant, to do it. It's where it should rest. And Lara took the time with this week, and she had a panic because the funeral home was trying to bury somebody on Tuesday, and she had to register in the new system and crank out certificates. And it's one thing you don't think of a business we're in, but somehow we're in that business. And so I heard that I moved, and there was a second. I think it's all good to go ahead. I'll call to a vote again. Blundell votes yes. Kowalczyk?
Yes.
Lang?
Yes.
Norris?
Yes.
And Noonan?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm almost done talking. In March 16th to be exact, New York State and village law prescribes we have a village election. It's we have 2 seats coming up. It's the seat of Jennifer Norris and Charles Lang, or they'd be up in a cycle. And we at prior board meetings, when Jay resigned, we have to put his seat up as well for the unexpired 2 years of that term, which appears in section 3-312 we talked about a month ago or so. So we don't overload with turning over the whole board in any one cycle. Just this one time, what we'll call Jay's seat comes up. And Lara's on top of it, working with the Conference of Mayors and the local Board of Elections. But in village law, the village clerk actually runs the election. We don't use the Board of Elections. And everything we're seeing is that it's scheduled to occur. We run what's called an independent nominating petition. We don't run on particular party lines. Individuals take out independent nominating petitions. There's guidelines people interested in running can go look at online, village law. And it gives you the format of the petition. It gives you the requirements based on population, how many you need signed, and time, dates, turn-in dates, and so forth. So we're starting the process for that, but I wanted to remind everybody that that's underway. We don't guide or control the candidates, or how would you say, meaning the clerk's office is not there to assist or select candidates. It's candidates self-identify, and then they have to comply with the petition requirements, and they have to develop a lot on their own, which is the way we all ran. Nobody comes in and holds party A's hand and avoids party B. It's neutral. They have to take the incentive and run. So like I said, that election is set for March 16, 2021. And right now, nothing in New York State has changed that with any COVID-related changes.
Which I'm a little surprised about, because I can't say I'm looking forward to the prospect of knocking on, 50 doors in the village and saying hi, with a mask.
Yeah, it's tough. It's always tough in general because it's the dark season. You're going and the cold. It's usually January to February 15th. I was like,
well, it was going to be cold and dark and snowy.
To begin with,
any year you do it, but with COVID, it just, to me, you should be able to make
I was surprised because
special dispensation.
The last March cycle got moved. I don't think Rhinebeck had their election until the state pushed that one off because they were the last cycle we had nobody up, in the March of 2020. But we have 2 normal seats and then the third for a 2-year term. So be advised, whoever's watching and whoever's here. I think, Lara, that's the bookkeeping at the end that I needed to deal with on some items you had. I've touched on all the business items we had to cover. We'll circulate that consecutive agreement. Probably tomorrow morning, I'll push that out. That's that document you'll want to see. We'll pull on that somehow. And I know we had participants out there, which is fun. We have a good crowd out there. Right now, as part of our meeting, we would open to public comment. If you could address me as the mayor and unmute yourself and say who you are, and if you have something on your mind you want to ask, we'll try to help you out. I'll wait a minute. I don't think we can let Hildebrand talk. He already spoke enough. Let's see. Only kidding, Patrick. All right. As we're waiting, people can still think of a question if they want. Any board members have any general business that's on your mind that we should talk about that we didn't touch on? I guess I just thought of something, even though I said it maybe 5 times. We probably need a motion. Well, maybe Larry can remind me. I'm looking at my notes here, but I would like to forego/cancel the meeting on which will it be the 17th, Thursday? 14, 15, 16, 17. And then we'll put notices out in the proper channels to meet 7 January and 21 January. Did I actually make a motion on that, Lara? I don't think I did, but my brain got going.
No, you did not.
Okay. So I would move that unless somebody dying to meet on the 17th with something, we cancel the 17th workshop and set a 7 January and a 21 January workshop to specifically work on police reform project and integrated budgeting concepts. And we're going to be busy, like I said. I'll move. Is there a second?
Second.
Any thoughts, discussion? I think we're going to have to keep this pattern up, I think, through February, March, because April 1, we have to be ready. So the motion and a second, we'll pick the dates for those other months as we see where we're at and how much work this really is. All good and exciting, but it's going to be detailed.
Ed, we have a hand being raised.
Pardon me?
I have a hand being raised. You might want to unmute yourself.
Sorry, Mayor, can I speak, or is it still public comment?
Well, just a minute, Makorka, we have a motion and a second on the floor on some meeting dates. So on those changes, folks, we good with that? We all in favor? Let me do the roll call. I got to do it. Blondell, yes. Kowalczyk?
Yes.
Was that a yes, Brent?
Yes, it was.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Ms. Norris?
Yes.
And Mr. Noonan?
Yes.
Okay, so don't show up Thursday, show up. I'll send blurbs out in the weeks, and we'll have to do the same thing. We'll notify media, notify Doorfront, and all that. And Malcorka, you were trying to ask a question or say something. What's up?
Hi, Mayor. I was just wondering, the January 7th meeting, is that open to the public?
Yeah.
Okay.
All our workshops are. They're just a little, these meetings we have to do like almost like regular routine kind of boring things. The workshop's a little more we can kick. What I'm asking everybody to do is, and if you'd like, this draft document is very detailed, and what I envision doing is pulling, I think, 3, 4, 5 key concepts that we feel we need improvement, and we can start working on and pull in. We've talked about a few tonight, and but yeah, they are open, and we will notify. The way we do it, we put a posting on our door over here. I put something on our website. For some reason, I don't know if it always happened, but it didn't hyperlink on the website. But you can clip and paste into the browser. And if I knew, you and I can maybe talk in the next whatever, and might find some roles that if you're interested in doing something, So I know you're working a lot with the library, but we don't want to burn out volunteers everywhere. But that's the answer.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Well, good. We did a lot tonight. We went a little longer than normal, but I felt it was good that Human Rights Commission talked to all of you. And I'm not sure if they can clip that out for Panda. It might have been a little choppy. They might be able to do a better presentation because people are going to have to look at our pictures on the right side, I guess, if they're looking at Panda, whereas could be good, could be bad. Brent, I think, well, first, I guess we have to pay bills. Like Ray reported, the vouchers are identified and done. The bulk of us have been in. If one can get in tomorrow morning and Ray will get payments issued. It's when you think of it, for a small village, we keep the economy going. $200,000 a month in payments, $2.5 million a year. We're a big business in a little village. Yeah, but I would move that we pay bills after audit. Is there a second?
Second.
I'm just going to call roll call. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed to paying bills? No wise guys. Okay, motion carried. Looking at my paper and looking at Brent's face, I think it's that time of night.
I can make a motion that we adjourn this evening's meeting.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good night, everybody. Thanks for your work. See ya.